Well, welcome back, everyone. We had an interesting last session. At least I think we did. Couple things happened, and this will help get Winter caught up. Welcome back, Winter. Glad you're back. Glad we're glad you're safely moved. That was a long haul. So the ambush went well. The assaulting force of the lizard folk creature Vassarisk was not only defeated and diverted from their intent of taking over the Sawtooth village and therefore gaining access to the Obsidian Gate, but the team discovered that they were in possession of an anvil. And this anvil seemed to be a relic that was maintained by an organization called the Faith Keepers. And we're beginning to learn a little bit more about what their potential plan was once they captured the village, took over the people of Sawtooth's clan, and then would eventually try to assault the Obsidian Gate. It would seem that this anvil is a dedicated relic to a deity known as Moradin, a kind of deity that's known to be a creator of worlds, or some believe may have even been the creator of the Celestial Gate when the deities had left and fled Greater Exandria to protect it from the betrayer gods. But the team split up for a moment. Once traversing the Umgarden River, making it to the lower portions of the village, Xaneth and Winter hung out with the newly met lizard folk within the main village itself, while Puck, Spot, and Earthen made their way up into the Brood's chamber, where the original Brood was being held, that is now being actually held by an ancient, well, we don't actually know yet, by a black dragon over in the mining pits near the entrance of the volcanic root system. But they discovered something. This rock, this guardian of the original Brood chamber, was suffering from a malady of sorts. A malady of something that was eventually sussed out as a mindworm. The mindworm was destroyed, taken off the creature, and there was almost a immediate recovery of the rock, this huge guardian who had initially failed in its chore of protecting the egg brood, and therefore it was moved to another village. And that's where Vassarisk had found the egg brood, captured it, and taken it into the mining pits. However, down below, Xaneth and Winter began to learn a little bit more about the ceremony coming up, designed to reseal the Obsidian Gate. The realization that for every generation, someone is chosen every century to perform the ceremony and is sacrificed to the ceremonial event, knowing now that Sawtooth's daughter will be sacrificed to the Obsidian Gate as part of this ceremony that's supposed to happen in 2 days' time. The party is currently split. Winter and Xaneth down in the lower village, Puck, Earthen, and Spot up in the rook of the Brood chamber. What would you guys like to do?
Try really hard not to make a rock joke. It's so hard. Because
Well,
I really want to.
you didn't try very hard. You just made one. So.
Right now. But it's like, hey, you want to talk to the bird?
I think I'm out of spell slots to communicate with it, but I would like to stay here and try and take care of it and help it recover for a while. I'm in desperate need of long rest, but
yeah, you guys only just recently fought the ambush, and you hadn't really long rested yet. I would say it's just now getting dark. I would say at the point that you guys destroy the mindworm, and Xanath discovering what she discovered down below, it's at that point where the sun is just starting to set.
How about we try and just talk to the people who usually take care of the rock to see how much they knew about this mindworm that seems to have been put here on purpose. So that kind of indicates that there might have been some kind of infiltration.
Can I investigate the hole for that? How big are we talking for this mindworm? Is it
give me an investigation check as you begin to examine the entry point where the mindworm came in.
A quick question.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a final spell slot in the second level and something is in the first level, can I sacrifice my second level slot for a first level spell? Or
as long as it says you're allowed to. So if they're typically first level spells, can be used as higher level spells.
But
for example, let's say you have a fourth level spell. Often it will say it requires a fourth level slot. So yes, typically anything that's considered a first level spell can be used in higher spell slots.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't really say anything in the description, but it is a first level spell, and I have a second level spell slot available.
Then in that case, you're free to use it if you want to.
Oh, nice. Okay, so I'm gonna.
It was a 12 on investigation.
Okay.
Then I'll cast Speak with Animals to talk to the rock while Earthen investigates.
Okay.
Ask it what it's cooking.
What?
Ask it what it's cooking.
What it's cooking?
Ignore him.
Ask the rock what it's cooking.
You didn't try that hard not to make the rock joke.
I know, right? We're barely 8 minutes in.
I've been sitting on these for like a week.
Have they hatched?
We'll see. We got to look back in the nest.
So, Puck, you're trying to communicate with the creature, the guardian. Earthen is examining the spot where the mindworm had come through. Spot, what are you doing with your time up inside the brood chamber?
I was just going to see if I could help out with getting the rock back on its feet, just make sure it's okay.
Okay. So I'll say, Puck, you're casting a spell so you can communicate with it. Spot, give me a nature check as you begin to examine the creature.
1 second on that, because I did not my...
Earthen, the hole that the mindworm dug doesn't seem plausible for it to have done it. Something else dug that hole. Mindworms tend to be parasitic and get established as soft organ creatures. They don't have the ability to burrow. So something else created that hole. You're just not sure what. What'd you get, Spot?
Sorry, I had to log back in. I haven't rolled yet.
Okay.
It took forever to do that.
No worries.
So you said
How
nature check
how
or
big
animal?
is the hole?
It's maybe a 3-foot diameter hole.
So big enough that I could crawl into, or like crawl, like
Yeah, you could shimmy through it to get to the other side.
like what's on the other side of that thing? Yeah,
Yeah, like
just
You can't-
like investigating while I'm going through there. But yeah,
yeah. Give me perception as you start trying to crawl through the hole that was made. What'd you get, Spot?
Was it nature or animal handling? I missed that part.
Nature.
Nature. Okay. Apologies on all that. Ooh, that is a big 3.
Yeah, you're not really familiar with this kind of creature, so I mean, the only sign that you see that it was ever having issues was maybe the massive amount of feathers that have molted off of it, and you could see bare patches of its skin where the feathers have come off. Other than that, you're not really sure its condition.
Okay.
that was a nat 20 on that perception check, so I was a 31.
Nice. So as you get
Right.
your head
Yeah.
and your upper body through the opening and looking on the inside, you can see a small iron box with its lid open, and inside the iron box, the casement of a small egg that is fractured, and you can see signs of a trail leading from the box to the hole that you're currently scurrying through. Get the feeling that the creature was the origin of that box.
Well, I'm definitely gonna pick up the box. And does the whole end is it dead ended there, or?
Yeah, it's
Still
just like
going
a
through.
hollowed out section of the interior of the wall. It's almost like somebody snuck in here, broke through, put the box in here, and then snuck out.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely pick up the box and check it for traps first, just in case.
Give me an investigation check.
No, not bad on that one. So that's 23.
23. There is an arcane rune on the box, but it looks expired, like it had already been set off.
Okay. Yeah, in that case, I will. I'll tell you what. Do I have something you can open the box with? Yeah, I'm gonna grab my rapier first
Okay.
and just kind of like push the box like at a distance, kind of push it just to be safe. Make sure nothing happens, and then I'm gonna pick it up.
It's pretty good size, so when you take your rapier out to nudge it, it's heavy enough to that your rapier blade kind of bends. So it's a medium size container, and it's mostly made of metal and wood.
All right, well, here goes nothing. Plop down in there and just gonna try and shimmy it. Is it the size that I can fit it into the haversack without like?
Yeah, barely, but you could probably fit it in the
Okay.
haversack.
Or
All right, I want to just shimmy it into the haversack without having actually done any other investigation on it for now, just
Okay.
in case there was something going to go off on that. It won't go off right here.
Yeah, makes
Do
sense.
you want the ex-thief to take a look at that?
Let me get it out of here first. At least it's super light now.
So, Puck, as you cast the spell and you feel that connection, give me an animal handling with advantage because you did cast the spell for starters.
Ooh. 20.
You begin to realize that this creature is smarter than you would expect it to be, but not smart enough to, warrant an idea of sentient existence. You have heard of tales or stories of very large, formidable creatures like giants and other things training rocks from like their hatchling consistency up to their adulthood, giving, kind of almost making them into pets. The one thing that you notice about this particular rock is that it's very old. You get the feeling that it's been around for a very long time. But it has enough awareness to know that it's made a connection with you. And it kind of brings its like huge like form down after kind of recovering that. It gets that feeling of the mind worm being extricated from underneath its skin and flesh. And its huge beak just kind of nudges into you like it's bumping into you, almost like to acknowledge that you're there.
Oh.
Of course, you also realize you could easily fall into its mouth and get swallowed whole, but, you know. Like you're holding onto its beak like this. Like you're just...
We'll hope for the best.
Yeah, it's huge.
I try to gather some food from the side because I know it's probably very hungry, and I am in the line of fire, so to speak.
Okay.
What can we do to help you feel better?
You hear, like, when it makes its noises, food.
I try to gather as much food that seems fresh around it as possible.
Okay. You gather up a lot of the offerings that have been brought up here over the past week or so, since it was falling ill. And it's a mixture of dried meats, cured meats, certain fruits, and certain things that it can gather amongst itself in the wild. A creature this size could probably eat a cow a day at this point. But you get the feeling that it used to hunt on its own because, like, all along the peripheral of the nest are like bones, like remains, like small juvenile elephants and small oxen and water buffalo. Like, you could tell that this thing used to like free range, feast and feed itself, and then come here and watch over the brood.
Oh. How long have you been sick?
Long time.
Do you know who did this to you?
No. Stole my eggs, my brood.
Did you see?
Failed.
It seems like somebody put a parasite here to make you sick so they could steal it. Somebody sabotaged you. Is there somebody who comes here often?
The leader? Sawtooth?
Sawtooth. Is anybody else come here?
Not that I remember.
Were you able to see who stole the brood?
No, the brood was moved. I was too sick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They thought I was dying.
You're going to be better now. We're gonna get you food, and we killed the worm that was feeding off of you. We're going to try and get the brood back soon, so you should make sure to eat and rest and try and feel better.
It rubs its huge face like up against you, which is like from head to toe, kind of nudges you kind of off to the side. And it picks up an entire kind of like pile of cured meats and just swallows it whole. It goes over to a massive pile of fruit and begins to pick at it and nearly consume it in its entirety. It seems to be eating at a voracious tempo once it felt confident that it could eat.
Oh. I'm just going to stay by its side for a while. I assume it probably needs some food before it's fully cognizant. And then I'll maybe try and ask it a few more questions to see if it maybe remembers anything.
Okay. Down below in the riverfront portion of the village. The village being made up of 3 sections. The brood, where the eggs used to be contained. The main dwellings that are built into the side of the cliff face, almost like an Anasazi kind of style of construction. And then the small village that's built along the riverfront where they hunt and fish the greater areas that the village is located in. And down below, Xanath, you were in a conversation with a particular priestess, I believe, that was explaining to you the ceremony. You were also examining the altar, getting a read and understanding of what this affect is. What is this idea of the sealing of the gate? Why does it have to happen every 100 years? And just trying to get a feel for that. Did you try to commune or reach out at some point as well? I'm trying to remember. I thought you did.
I have not tried to commune.
Okay. All right. I wasn't entirely sure if you had or not. But Winter's nearby now. She has come back from kind of learning some more about what the hunters do, how they hunt. And I would say between you and Winter, you now know that this village's population is made up of about 42 individuals. There are some small children here, but there's a small group of the lizard folk had traveled to Swiftwind Village, where Krogath's wife, Nalith, was taken by Vassarisk, and currently the brood and Nalith reside in imprisonment down in the mine pits that are controlled by what now feels like maybe a couple different groups of folks that are looking to either influence or gain access to the interior of the lower portions of the volcano. We've also we currently have a map that was recovered from Vassarisk, and the map showed an area underneath the volcano called the Dark Depths, which gave some access points and some understanding as to where maybe certain things are down below, certain points of interest. And most of what you've been able to glean is that an area called Titan's Reach seems to be the focus of not only their approach and investigations, but it also seems to coincide with where the Obsidian Gate might be. And just below and to the right of where the village is kind of built into the side of the cliff, as the last light of day is fading, you can see the active volcano pluming off in the distance. And there, of course, the long kind of like stair processional that goes up to this like very stone tall recessed gate. Meanwhile, on the altar, the orb that was placed there, the orb that is seemingly part of the ceremony that will happen in 2 days. Well, now a day and a half. What do you and Winter want to do with your time down below?
I think Xanth is feeling pretty task oriented right now, so I think she's trying to understand, we're doing this ritual in 2 days. There's an altar and then there's a long winding path up to the gate. What we can do to sort of where this ritual is likely to go wrong and what we can do to sort of defend it.
And if I recall, you were actually having a conversation with Sawtooth, with Krogath himself, because Vashari is the priestess that's currently consumed by the ceremony, where she has to like focus on the orb and maintain her focus on the orb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if Sawtooth's still there, I'd like to talk to him about where he thinks defenses are needed.
I don't know where. I'm not sure where we need defenses any longer. I'm not even sure who our enemy is. With Vassarisk dealt with, the only thing left really to do is to retrieve the brood. But unfortunately, with the Guardian ill and no longer capable of helping, I'm not really sure if defenses are necessary. Perhaps we should just simply go after the brood, destroy the mines, and take back what's ours after the ceremony. The ceremony is obviously important. It must be done. Vishari will be ready for the ceremony tomorrow evening.
So it sounds like you think it is unlikely at this point that anyone will try to stop the ceremony, or you don't know who would.
I don't know who's left. I don't know who is controlling Vassarisk. I don't know what the answer to those questions are. To say that there is no threat would be false of me. I am merely stating I'm not sure where the threat lies now.
Previously, this entity has been able to reach out, to attack me, to speak to Puck, to send undead creatures to attack our friends. Some of that, I think, was orchestrated by lizard folk. Some of that just seems to be the creature. And I wonder if there are any other attempts this creature will try to make before they're sealed again.
You hear a new voice pipe in as the sun dips below the horizon and Vishari comes out of her concentration.
Mm-hmm.
The weakest point of the magics is now. I believe the creature imprisoned below is projecting themselves because the magic containing it has been weakened by the need to reseal the gate. I believe once the gate is resealed, its power will be contained yet again. Or not. Perhaps there is a new influence upon it. Perhaps it's drawing its power from something else that we don't know about. But no matter what, once this gate is resealed, it is impossible for the creature to leave.
Have you sensed anything different as you're doing the ceremony or in recent weeks? Have you sensed this creature's power growing?
I have sensed its consciousness. I have sensed that it feels that it has new purpose. What I don't understand is why it is... I am the 4th sealant generation. This will be my final. When Korgoth's daughter is committed to the orb and the gate resealed, an entirely new generation will be selected for the future. If the brood is not recovered, this, however, will not matter. Only those from the brood can give us our future. Without it, our future is sealed. But in all of my previous times sealing the Obsidian Gate, I have never felt it project its power with such intensity. It's always been barely able to understand itself as a conscientious creature, a creature sentient enough to know that it's trapped. Now it feels to me like it's more aware, that it's been whispered to, so that it has more knowledge of itself. Vishari comes down off from behind the altar, comes to stand beside Korgoth, looks at both you and Winter. All I know is that I must seal the gate tomorrow night. And in the morning, after the sealing of the gate, the final ritual of presentation, the gate will disappear into the rock, and the cliffside will appear as normal. In 100 years, the gate will reappear to be resealed. This is how it's been, and this is how it's always going to be. Unless... She looks over at Korgoth. Korgoth exchanges glances with her. Both you and Winter hear a noise, like a great bird calling out. And as you look up on the cliff face, you could see this great creature just kind of perched up on the edge of the cliff. Full belly, mostly recovered. It looks back at Puck, Earthen, and Spot. It puts its tail feathers down to the ground. And Puck, you hear, just as your spell begins to fade, would you like a ride?
Yes. Trying not to fangirl. Yes.
Earthen and Spot, you watch as Puck begins to crawl up the massive tail of feathers and just gets lost in the plumage of the rock. The creature with its great head turned backwards, looking at both you and Spot.
I'm going to activate my ring and fly up its back.
Fly up onto its back and kind of settle into the plumage.
Keep that ring activated just in case, you know. I'm not the most dexterous person, so.
That's fair.
Or strong.
The creature patiently looks at Spot.
I'm going to just try to swing my way up there.
Okay. As you make your way up on its back, as soon as it feels Spot land on the center post of its back, the bird leaps up into the air, and immediately the thermals reach underneath its wings, and its 100-foot wide wingspan comes fully expanded. There's a moment for Winter and Xanath as the priestess and Korgoth look up, and you can see amazement on their expression. You can see some of the villagers nearby look up as well. Some of the lizard folk that were making their way up towards the stairwell, the stone stairwell that'll take them up into their dwellings up on the cliff face, stop halfway. And there's dozens and dozens of people, just lizard folk, looking up and watching as this huge bird begins to circle over the village and immediately begins to slowly circle down, and it lands in the ceremonial space. It tucks its wings in and kind of chicken waddles over to where you and Winter are. And Puck, you just keep, as your spell's slowly fading, fly. Let's fly.
Where do you want to fly to?
We fly. We fly. And you notice it sets its tail feathers down, looking at Xanath and Winter with expectation.
I think the rock wants the two of you to come with us and fly somewhere.
Santa's just like up at the bird.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like, it stands like 25 feet tall.
Yeah.
It's a massive creature. It's
This
a
is
massive
crazy.
creature.
It's okay. We're okay. It's okay.
Yeah, you can see the heads of Spot and Earthen come over the edge. Like, they open up the plumage and kind of, they're trying to tell you that it's okay. For perspective, this is what he looks like.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Awesome.
So that's what he looks like, to give you a little perspective. Not that having a model of a rock and a black dragon mean anything, but I just did.
I'll walk around to the back super polite and cautious and try and clamber up.
Yeah, the feathers almost feel like handholds. It's easy to kind of find foot purchase, and you easily make it up onto the back. There you can see Spot amongst the feathers, Earthen. Puck you can barely see her. She literally has to swim up and out of the feathers for you to be able to see her. Winter, are you climbing on board as well?
Yes, I am.
Winter kind of, and it's always frustrating when Winter does anything because she does it so light-footed. Like, she doesn't even disappear into the feathers. She just walks on the surface of the feathers, like totally like Legolas style, and just kind of gets up onto the back. But as soon as Winter finds purchase on the back, the creature leaps in the air. And it's instantly 100 feet in the air just from a single leap. And its huge wings come down and out and cause the creature to fly even faster and harder up into the sky. Once it's up in the sky, you guys are watching it ride the thermals, the currents along the base of the ridges of the mountain. And then it brings you up and above the ridge so that now you can see the expanse of the center of the island. In the very middle of the island, this great volcano spewing out smoke and ash. And now that the sun has gone down, a constant pulse of glow, maybe a mile away in the very center of the cratered valley.
As we were like drifting up, was it possible to get like a perception check just to see if there's anything else in the sky?
Yeah, go for it.
Like when the dying of the light, I guess.
Yeah, go for it. Give me a perception check as you begin to examine the horizon.
That one is a dirty 20.
Okay. The horizon itself seems clear for the most part, and in the fading gray of light, and with the huge jungle canopy just kind of unfurling below you as you are now at about 1,000 feet in the air, looking at the horizon in all directions. You can see the vast expanse of the jungle canopy. You can also see the way the different rock formations are, like the different ridgeline and mountain formations kind of break and shatter along the skyline. No sense of any other creatures nearby. No being hypervigilant to maybe whether or not that black dragon patrols or acts like a guardian itself. You kind of look in the direction that you believe that area might be, since you have been exposed to the map. You can see a great tall wooden spire about a half a mile out in the dying light. And the only reason why you can see it is because it is covered in torchlight and lantern light. They have erected this massive excavation platform above the mining pit. And that's the area that you believe that Xanath had explored with her scry ability. Down below in the lava fields and ashen waste down below, from the area that you came up from and on the map where it's called Titan's Reach, you realize that what you thought were 5 independent peaks of the mountain are actually representations of a massive hand. And being this high up, you can now see through the construct of the rock and the way the peaks come together. It's as if this giant hand is pushing up through the lava fields and coming up and through. And this is where the cliff is, the brood chamber, and the obsidian gate, all mark in this area called the Titan's Reach. Over by the Mist's Veil on the map, you can see the great spire, and it's butted up against this massive ridge of rock and mountain. And beyond that, where the lava worm reach is, the great volcano, rising 6,000-7,000 feet up in the air. The great glow and ash spewing lava coming from its caldera up above, the rim of it, bright hot red. And then further off to the west, you could see the area known as the Shadow Peaks. And it's an amalgamation of rocky spires that are collectively jammed together far away from the volcanic area. And then, of course, the Ember Fields. The great expanse of the flattened area of the interior of this massive ring of mountains, ash, and lava. You can see great lava fields ebbing and flowing, smoke rising. And just as the sun sets and the entire place is plunged into the inky darkness of night, the entire area of the dark depths lights up from the lava. And then coursering around the rim of the volcano, you could see a large, darkened outline of something moving around the crater's edge. Huge wings, long in form, tail, as lit by the backdrop of the volcanic eruptions that are going on. The largest dragon that you've ever seen is just circling. Out on the ember fields, heading down in the direction towards where you can see the great excavation spire that the Copper Keepers have built, or at least you suspect they've built. A caravan torchline of hundreds upon hundreds of individuals making their way across the ember fields and towards the excavation site.
Can we make out any details, like even like the sort of race of the people?
It's pretty far off. Like, you get the feeling that the rock is giving you that full view of what it used to kind of patrol to protect the village, and is showing you everything that it can as a way of helping to help all of you understand the vastness of the area that you're currently in. And somewhere out there, 3 interlopers. Somewhere out there, the captain, her betrothed, and Mason making their way towards that great spire where the excavation site is. That huge pile of lumber or metal that's been built purposely to mine down below and gain access directly into the roots of the volcano itself. Eventually, the rock kind of banks in and out of the thermals, starts slowly coming down back into the village. And now you can see the torch lights and lantern lights of the village down below along the river, as all of the remaining lizard folk have gathered at the altar where the rock had landed. And seeing their patron, seeing their guardian, seeing the thing that has protected them for generations well of mind and able to function again. Great smiles on their faces as they look up to see you guys slowly circling down, and then kind of lands on its huge feet, tucks its feathered wings up underneath its chest and into itself, lowers its feathered tail, and one by one, each of you come off of its back. It immediately leaps in the air, heads towards its roost, and disappears into the interior of its brood roost. Korgoth comes over.
There's no way that... I'm kind of look at the group, be like, there's no way that we didn't just, say, hey, we're here.
We were flying pretty high.
That's a big, big bird.
It's a big bird, but it's native to the area.
But there was nothing else in the sky. Well, for the most part.
Well, I guess hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
And plan.
Oh, sure, that's too.
I mean, so we've done pretty well so far with the plans that we've made.
Oh yeah. I mean,
well, there's coordination and then there's execution. Yeah.
Yeah. We coordinate very well. She executes really well, like pointing at Winter.
The word execute comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Korgoth kind of watches you guys stare after the rock after it takes off towards the roost. Korgoth is genuinely amazed. He's got this look on his face. How did you... We thought the creature was dying.
It seems that somebody infiltrated and put a parasite to the bird to incapacitate it. Is
I'm
there
gonna pull
anyone who
haversack
comes
off
to
the
mind?
So with that, Earthen, you pull out the box, set it down. I am not aware that there are so few that would... only our clansfolk even know of the bird. But, the creature does fly and hunt on its own accord, so it could be spotted without us knowing or realizing it. And then he watches Earthen take the box out and set it on the ground. Korgoth comes over and stares at the box, opens it, and kind of looks inside and begins to kind of study it. And then he points to an emblem on the underside of the box that has a Copper Taker's emblem on it.
Mm-hmm.
When did you notice the rock got sick or was affected?
After Vassarisk began to start his campaign of subjugating the other villages, the Guardian fell ill. I sent my wife and the brood to Swift Village, and then everything just went bad from there on. The Guardian no longer capable of helping. My wife taken, the brood stolen. We thought, until you and your friend's arrival, that we were doomed as well.
Is there anybody who has regular access to this bird?
Everybody is free to worship and pay homage to our patron. The rock is a representation of our people, and what we do, we keep the gate safe. We keep our generations safe. The Guardian was something that we offered, not subjugation, but we treated it with respect. We didn't interfere with its hunting. From time to time, we would offer up ceremonial gifts and offerings as a way to bind our friendship with it.
So there are no people in the village who would consider themselves a regular, let's say, caretaker of any sorts, or friend or expert of the rock?
No, up until it fell ill, it took care of itself.
And
Can I examine
it
the
allows
rune on
people
the
to
box?
come in?
Sorry, go ahead, Earthen. What?
Sorry, I was asking if I could examine the expired rune on the box a little closer.
Yeah, give me an Arcana check as you do that. Puck, say that again. What were you saying?
I guess what I'm getting at is, what do you think is the likelihood that the person who did this is from your village?
I would find it very unlikely.
Okay, then it must have been somebody who infiltrated from the outside, or who's been at it for a while.
I am not used to these kind of involvements. If the Copper Takers were truly involved, at some point, retribution must be asserted. They cannot be allowed to continue to practice this way. Once the villages are reestablished, we will deal with the Copper Takers. Earthen, as you examine the rune, what'd you get?
An 8.
An 8? It's complex. You get a sense that it was set up as a timing device that released something, but you don't get the sense of the magic it was constructed with, and you're not really sure the complexity of it either. It's hard to know for sure, but its intent is pretty clear.
Korvoth, you said the rock fell ill after Vassarus began his campaign.
Yes.
This rune, I can't make out a whole lot, but this rune acted like a timer. What that timer did, I can't say. But if I'm drawing connections to this, you mentioned Vassarus had made inroads with the village or with the Copper Keepers before he left, before he took off on his new mission, right?
Yes.
This is a Copper Keeper's box. The rune could have been placed by them, could have been placed by Vassarus himself. But after he met with the Copper Keepers, he still had access to the village, to everyone, to the rock itself. Behind the hole where this creature came out was dug as a burrow. There was no exit. I tried to traverse through and see where someone had come through and entered into this sacred place of your protector. There was no other exit. There was only one entrance and exit, the same hole. And at the bottom of the hole was this box, opened, seal expired, and the egg as you see inside.
Vassarisk would not have had access to the brood. His clan is not of our clan. His clan is a warrior's clan. They were the protectors. My clan are the ones that guarantee that generations will continue to seal the gate. Somebody else would have planted that box. I don't believe Vassarisk would have had the ability to.
Did Vassarisk have any close contact with anyone in the Sawtooth clan?
Only me and my wife. He would have no means or requirements to discuss anything with anyone else. We didn't really abandon Vassarisk until he came back and began to attack the other clans, wiping them out, subjugating them, forcing them into his warrior clan. The Hand has been around as long as we have, but with Vassarisk's leadership and his falling into dark paths, well, it'll take some time to recover.
Can I roll an insight check?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if he's hiding something. Oh, he's probably going to be hiding something, and I wouldn't know it, because that was a 4 plus... not too bad. Sorry, I got a +9 on insight, so that's a 15 with all my stuff added to it.
The only thing he's hiding is his shame. He feels like he's failed. His wife is taken. The brood is threatened. The warrior clan has been decimated by Vassarisk's leadership. Half a millennia of existence for him has been undone in less than a month. He's being honest about what he knows, but he's hiding his shame.
Did you speak to the bird at all, Puck?
I spoke to it. It was a little incoherent on account of, what it's been through. But it doesn't really seem to know what had happened or to recall anyone coming in and out. I mean, if it's a trained person or whatever, they might have been able to get in while it was asleep or something, but it I'll try again later when it's rested a little bit more to see if it remembers anything. It's in a lot of...
Sawtooth, has anyone in the clan acted strange or gone missing or anything?
None. All are accounted for, save for those that fell in ambush during our recovery of my daughter. Other than that, no, everyone is accounted for. There are creatures that have magical abilities as well. It's not inconceivable to imagine somebody using invisible spells or other magics to gain access to it. But that would mean they'd have to traverse the cliff face to get all the way up to the 700 feet required to get up there. Get by its incredible sense of smell and awareness of invisible creatures. But I don't know.
It had to burrow the hole. Whatever it was, it had to burrow the hole, or whoever it was. That hole didn't just come from nowhere.
Well, the copper keepers and the others are adept at mining. Perhaps they used the device to sneak in as well as produce the hole. And now you can tell he's getting angry. Like every time he brings up the copper keepers, it's like triggering him. He is getting angry about this.
Why are you so quick to judge the copper keepers as the ones who created this? Yeah, their emblems on the box, but they would have had to sneak past the rock, your entire clan, everything. Why?
They are creatures.
If they could do that, why are they mining on the other side of the island? Why would they not just wipe you out themselves?
I think they are gifted at subterfuge. I think they used magic to subjugate Vassarisk. I think they used their tools and their devices to erode at my culture and the way of my people. I believe they seek something of value and resource and wealth, and they would be willing to do anything to retrieve it. But they don't want to be seen retrieving it. They don't want to be seen committing murder and atrocities. Therefore, they do what their kind does best. They lie. They subjugate. They corrupt. And they seek only things of wealth and value. They do not care for the spirit of this island. They only care for the resources it could give them, for the wealth that they can earn. They even cast off their own kind when they become sick, feeble, or too old or too young to help in what they are doing. They are, for the better part of a word I can't find in my own tongue, they are assholes.
You got no quarrel from me there, Sawtooth. But, again, something stinks here. And it's not just the copper keeper.
He just kind of looks around, stares at the priestess and kind of the rest of the crowd, and what will you and your friends do next? What is your plan? My scouts will be back tomorrow morning with the information you may find helpful. But I'm going to be sending more out to find those that were survivors of today's attack. See if we can't convince them to come back into the fold. I have a feeling
Certainly the rock might help with that.
Oh, The rock is better at instilling fear and hunting for food. I don't necessarily want to unleash the Guardian on those that I'd like to convince to come back to our side of the river.
No, of course. I mean, our sunset flight certainly must have drawn their attention. They certainly must have seen that.
I have found that those that act like predators rarely ever look up.
The last one I saw was running away from a very large gator. I don't know that he was preying on anything.
The ceremony is tomorrow night.
The ceremony is tomorrow night. It'll last all through the night. And with the rising sun in the morning, the orb will take the essence of my daughter. The priestess Vashari will then take the orb, put it into the gate seal, and the gate will fade into the cliffside. Protector it for another 100 years until it reappears.
Who taught your people this ceremony?
The word.
You certainly didn't just know the ceremony.
The word of the Wild Mother taught us that. Our pact and our bargain with her was the maintaining of the prison. It's our understanding of how we celebrate her. That is the ceremony. We give life back to her because she has given us life for millennia.
How do you know? How can you repeat the ceremony the same way every time? It must be etched somewhere. I mean, in the last cave, I saw, if I'm being frank, I saw two of my friends on the walls of your cave. And it had something to do with
saw a likeness. You saw similarity. Your friend Winter as a Elendrel. They are creatures of different planes of existence. Xanath, however, and Korgoth looks over at Xanath standing off to the side. I can honestly say, feels like an anomaly to me. While she bears a remarkable resemblance to the great statue in the halls and the upper wards of the jungle top. And yes, her image seems to appear on our caverns, on our storied caverns. Caverns that explain our lineage back to the time of our inception. That does not necessarily mean coincidence is preordained.
Well, I guess my question, Korgoth, is could we add some degree of permanence to the spell this time? What was happening when in those reliefs in the cave where we saw our friends meeting your people? What was happening at that time? You would know that. We can't. It's paintings on the wall. There's nothing we can tell. But
there have been times, there have been periods during our understanding of our purpose where others have come across and helped in certain times. The Elendril helped us reestablish the sense of magic of the orb. The faith of Cord and the faith of the gods gave us the opportunity to once again and reestablish our faith and understanding of the Wild Mother. These are occurrences that happened during the different periods of time and establishment of the resealing of the gates before these cursed gnomes and their contraptions arrived on the island. We do not live in an isolated existence. Things come and go from time to time. Fresh broods take on their own responsibilities of keeping the faith, keeping the Obsidian Gate closed. Whether or not you and yours have magics to offer to permanently seal the gate, does not that violate our tradition? Does that not violate our trust that was given to us by the Wild Mother to see to it that this creature remained imprisoned through the understanding of our faith and traditions?
You could stay here. You could stay here and guard what's left of the gate. But if we could permanently or more permanently close this gate, is that not something that would benefit all of us, including the Wild Mother?
Why didn't the Wild Mother do it herself? If it was meant to be, and if it was meant to happen, why did she not do it?
Spot, you have a connection with the Wild Mother, right?
Well, one of her children, kind of, and this strikes me as pretty shady.
How do you mean?
Well, again, I'm not. That's not my primary deity. I respect Nilla, but this doesn't seem like the kind of thing a good deity would demand of a people that she favors. I can't see anyone of that lineage demanding a live or a sentient sacrifice.
Look over it, Grant. Since she seems to be our preeminent scholar of the religions.
I mean, you can give me a religion check
yeah.
to see if you can think of anything related to the Wild Mother or related to this particular time period that Korgoth is kind of invested in.
Yeah. All right. I'll do a religion check and give myself guidance. That is a... All right. That is a 13.
The only thing that sticks out odd to all of you, boy, 13's pretty close, but not perfect. The way they describe the ritual is a transfer of essence.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a physical involvement of taking a life. It's a magical invocation that seems to take the essence of the priest, the priestess, that would be the daughter to Korgoth, and it's infused into the orb, and then the orb is placed into the Obsidian Gate. To a certain degree, Spot, did you have a question? You're on mute because it looked like you're about to ask something.
Thought I unmuted myself there. I apologize. I also did a religion check with a nat 20. Does that give me anything else? Anything better than she got?
I would say as Xanath is kind of like talking about the fact that based on what she's learned about the ceremony, there's no like taking of the life in the ceremony. They just talk about the forfeiture and the essence of the person being absorbed into the orb and then the orb being placed in the Obsidian Gate. For you, Spot, as you're hearing Xanath talk about that, and you start thinking about other religious groupings and activities, there are Fey religious invocations, and almost what we're describing here to a certain degree is to pass through a portal.
Okay.
Almost as if the essence of the person is moving from this plane of existence into another plane of existence, which might explain why a previous Elendril was involved in this, because their Sylvan existence is known to be Fey as well.
I'm going to kind of communicate that to the rest of the team that, I still have misgivings, but that this doesn't sound like a sacrifice per se. It's more kind of a planar shift. And that we don't necessarily know what's going to happen to the daughter, but it is probably not actually something that's going to lead to her death. Right.
Well, maybe not her death here.
Puck, when you were dead and you were talking to the deity, were there other people there?
There were kind of two parts to it. The first one being seeing the whole army of the undead inside a volcano, plus horrifying creatures with, a lot of stuff going on that front. Which, we don't know that I didn't hallucinate that in my pre-death situation, but I think it was true. Also, they were constructing a zombie ape, so if we do see one of those, that will confirm it, but I hope we do not. The second one was more of a being alone in a dark cave-like place while a maniac talks to you and you try to not listen. If anybody else wants to try, I'm sure there'll be more observance. I just kind of passively experienced it, but...
Wait. It's a dark place and just a crazy person just sits there and ransacks you. I'm just going to look over at Errand just... Ha!
I'm gonna cast light when he does that, like on my finger.
Wow, okay. We don't have much spells left. But no, I don't see anybody else. It's kind of talking at me.
Okay.
I'm gonna kind of look at Winter.
Oh, and before I forget, also a lot of emotion stuff. You could feel its emotions, and they were lonely, angry, frustrated. It was, very depressed. It doesn't quite justify everything, but okay.
I would kind of look at Winter and they said something about shifting flames, and they said that your kind are somehow connected to that thing. Can you do that and try and investigate what's going on here? Do you have that power capability? I don't know.
I mean, as an Eladrin, you know that you have a Fey awareness. Eladrin are by their very nature Fey in origin and existence. They also tend to be wanderers, and they often shift and change their form based on seasons when they wander. So it's their ability to espouse their Fey-like magic to always keep in connection with the Fey. Give me a insight check as you stare at the orb on the altar and then over in the direction where the obsidian gate would normally be located. Too dark to see it now because it's late at night. But staring at the orb, you're beginning to wonder if that might be a... Okay. So, Winter, you get an extra D4. Yeah, she got all comfy and she got into her storytelling mode and she forgot her dice.
And I'm trying to find my phone because I just slung it.
Oh my God, it's so warm here right now. So warm.
Yeah, you're not getting washed away, are you?
No. Where we are, we got the very edge. It's central Northern California that got plastered. And because it was such a warm storm, it melted all the snow above them. Mm-hmm. So they got all the rain and they got all the snow melt at the same time.
Okay, I'm rolling for what again?
Give me insight. And you're currently examining the orb. Like the orb is on the altar because you guys are kind of in the ceremonial space having this conversation at night.
And you also get a D4 extra on that.
Yeah, you get an extra D4 because Xanath is giving you guidance.
Well, it didn't really help, but it's a 10 altogether.
A 10 altogether? Yeah, there's some truth to what both Earthen and Spot are saying. Like, this idea that the essence or consciousness of a person placed in this orb, and then this orb placed into the gate to keep it sealed. This feels like a Fey ceremony, but you're not entirely which one it would be. And it could also be involving one of the courts.
Am I allowed to do like a history check on it or no?
Sure, if you'd like to.
Okay. It's a 13.
13. The Fey courts have always been the representation of balance of power and the stability of the Fey. As the Fey and the Shadowfell have always been at odds with each other, the Fey courts were established to try to bring some kind of semblance and order to how Fey magic is utilized. The Fey courts had developed a crown, and this crown was shared amongst the different courts as a way to harness the power of the material plane, and therefore keep the Fey both in balance and protected from not only the boundaries of the Shadowfell, but to maintain a sense of magical control over things. If this stone and ritual, this orb, are related to this, what they do here, you're not really entirely sure which court would be influencing this, because this seems so out of the ordinary. Seems so difficult for the courts to understand why they would be here. But the idea of consciousness transference into the orb and then the orb resealing the gate, it's there's a connection here, but you just can't seem to put your finger on it. It's there, but you're not really sure. And I would say everything I told you, you're free to just say, you could tell the rest of the group.
Okay.
That way you don't have to repeat it. So
Whatever.
Winter, yeah. So while Winter's like thinking about this, she's kind of saying her thoughts out loud to the rest of the group.
I never know how to word that because it's just like I always forget. Oh, you're talking to me, and I would have to explain that. I always forget the whole word.
Oh, the fun internal monologue mechanics of D&D. Because I do have some players that go, no, I don't tell them that. And then the rest of the players have to like live with the fact now they don't get that extra information.
Like the Mercer Whispers, right?
Yeah, there's always that. Yeah.
So if they're not, what plane would they be going to? I mean, this still seems like a sacrifice. Or there's just some other plane full of lizard folk that have given themselves over to this dumb orb to keep this gate closed, and we can't find a way to close it better.
So, just to kind of understand what you're laying down, do you think that this thing is just flawed, or do you think it's possibly like...
Why do I get the feeling that Puck is like a streetwise punk? Like, just try to understand what you're laying down, old man. What you're saying is...
I did admit the fact that I have like a toothpick in my mouth and like a leather jacket.
If you start speaking like James Cagney, I'm out of here.
I would try, but it would be horrifyingly bad.
Now look here, see?
No, genuinely. Basically what I'm asking is, do you think this thing is like bad, as in it's like not necessarily stopping this thing from happening, but like doing something else, enabling it, whatever? Or do you just think that it's like a system that could be improved upon?
A little of both, because she just described a balance of power, right? Well, how would you balance power better than requiring a seasonal sacrifice? Time is funny in the Fae, right? Like, I'm just looking at Winter for acknowledgement of that fact.
Oh yeah, she would know, and she would describe that each journey into the Fae is a unique outcome of time. So when you journey to the Fae, it's a random outcome. When you come back from the Fae, it could be a random outcome as well.
So
You could lose a day, you could lose a week, or you could lose a month.
So all these seasonal sacrifices, let's say, in this in, right? How something doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. And yeah, maybe we've established sacrifice might not be the right word, but we don't know where the oracle goes when they become one with the orb. We don't know what happens there.
I don't know.
But we know that this cycle repeats every 100 years. And you saw what we saw from the back of that bird, right? The hand coming out of the ground.
Yeah, it lines up with several stories we've been hearing floating around. It's tricky because, and I don't fully understand magic and gods. I'm just a humble little gnome who likes tigers. But
You've talked to two gods so far, right?
and they both wanted to kill me 5 seconds into the conversation.
Well, to be fair, they just didn't appreciate the intrusion. I mean, Draxelhaven was more like, a fly buzzing around in its ear, whether or not it's truly seen as a god. But the creature inside the volcano was a little bit more antagonistic.
You mean you and her are talking to the same number of gods right now, as far as I'm concerned?
Well,
I'm pointing at Dan.
My concern is maybe messing with the delicate natural order of this place could be, more problems, even if it includes a sacrifice. Maybe like sacrifices are necessary. That sounds mean, but it's a little mean. I mean, it's, I don't know. I get what you're saying. I'm just concerned with a line of thinking that, lets out a monster from the volcano.
If it's essence that they need for this transference, why does it have to be the essence of one person? Why couldn't it be shared essence of multiple people? And then no one's affected, right? Everyone gives up a portion of their essence, goes into the orb, gate sealed, right? But instead, we have to put one person on there. And that one person, from the time they're born, is selected. And all that's going to happen to them for their whole life is they're going to become one with the orb.
This is not Zenith, I would say your passive understanding of religion, you're now getting the feeling that Earthen is definitely not a religious person. He sounds like someone that probably doesn't really believe in the gods, because the way he's describing the sacrifice of one is a common gospel amongst the different pantheons. They all share that idea that the sacrifice of the one to save the many is kind of emboldened into the idea of the overall pantheon of the greater deities. In fact, it's the very essence of the sealing of the Great Celestial Gate, that each prime deity sacrificed their own idea of themselves during the period of founding to cast the 9 betrayer gods into their prisons, seal the gate through the sacrifice of the prime. And in his own kind of like heretical way, Earthen is describing an idea of the foundation of the pantheons, the idea of self-sacrifice, the idea of an absolute commitment to the one versus or for the sake of the many.
Yeah, the thing that Melora is requiring, a sacrifice, is not without precedent. You know, there's a significance to a willing sacrifice, and
Oh,
a
okay.
fraction of
There,
essence.
there, you got me. Willing sacrifice. If one is selected and chosen and raised from birth to be the willing sacrifice, are they the willing sacrifice?
So before we
She has
become
an opportunity to say no.
And it's kind of like
Does she?
hearing that, she kind of steps out of the crowd. And of course I'm willing. I understand my purpose. I was hatched, raised with the understanding that I am saving not only my own people, but yours as well. If this fate gets out and is unleashed on this world, it not only dooms my people, but it dooms all of your people too.
The five of us have made our choice as fully grown individuals to take this path. We weren't raised, we weren't hatched into this path. We came upon this path of our own free will, and we came upon this path kind of at random. But here we are. You were born into this path. Say what you will, you're willing now. Well, you've been drinking this juice of self-sacrifice your whole life. Korgoth has fed you this juice of you're the chosen one, you're the one that's going to be the sacrifice for all of us to keep this thing together your whole life. You didn't have a chance to come to that decision on your own accord. That decision was thrust upon you before the first cracks appeared.
You guys notice that Scolari gets a little too close to Earthen and kind of just gets close enough to and she gets this soft look of sadness in her face. And you could just hear her mutter out, to suffer so grievously that one would turn away from fate, even knowing that fate would save the world. What a void. What an emptiness it is to walk through life so blind without purpose. I've accepted my purpose. My eyes are wide open. And she kind of steps away and just has this sad look on her face. So let's go ahead and take our break. And when we come back, we will do the second half.
All right.
So good role play tonight.
Yay.
Put on the break. Go there. And go there. Oh my God, what was that?
There's an old video of my daughter when she was not even 4 months old, 5 months old.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Just take my name, man.
It's amazing how fast they grow up, my friend.
Yeah.
Especially when you're on opposite ends of the spectrum like I am. A 24-year-old and a 1-year-old.
I never felt like I was getting older until I had kids. And then
I felt like I was getting older when I started waking up with hangovers.
Still
That's when I
haven't
felt
had that
old.
yet, so I got that going for me.
What? You're not getting hangovers?
I've never had a hangover my whole life. Never.
No way.
Well, how can you get
must
one
be-
from
you
drinking
must
Bartles
be
and
so
James?
well hydrated all the time.
Hey.
It's because he
This
drinks
is
Zima.
some wonderful Modelo Negro right now tonight.
Yeah, what is that? 2.3% ABV? It's enough to clean a copper penny.
Gonna drink some water.
I was like, I
have
just got
my-
my
I have
hardcore
my-
water.
I have my Captain Morgan's 100 proof over here. Like,
Oh,
that
good
stuff
Lord.
is
Save that
dangerous.
for a special occasion.
That
Is it in the
tastes different than the standard.
Does it come in the cannonball? Is it the one in the cannonball? Have you
Hang
seen
on.
those?
I'll get it.
You know,
I'm not. It's significantly bigger than a cannonball.
Oh, it's a handle. You have a handle of 100 proof Captain? Good
Captain
Lord.
Morgan. Yeah.
I feel
I
like
love
you
their-
should.
I love their ads. They're so funny.
It drinks just like regular Captains, which is like the best and worst part, right?
That's true.
Because twice as drunk and half the drinks, right?
So early evening is turning into the beginnings of late evening. This conversation going on back and forth. But meanwhile, around you, a gradual unfurling of a kind of festival-like activity, an impromptu celebration of the reestablishment of the health of the Guardian, and this glimmer of hope with the defeat of mental Vasarisk. Thank you. With the defeat of Vasarisk and the impending doom of the possible battle that was going to take place within Satu's own clan village, seemingly averted. While this conversation goes on, the villagers begin a bit of respite, celebration. They know that the generational resealing of the gate will happen tomorrow night, and great tables just regaled with heaps of fresh fruit and foods of the jungle, well-curated meats and roasted spit-fired meats over 2 or 3 different fires that were established. It's almost as if, as you guys were in this conversation for the last couple hours, the village just went on. It just continued to do what it normally does whenever it feels a celebration is required. At one point, a great wreath of flowers placed on the head of each of you in kind of celebration of the activity of the evening. The sounds of the drums and the sound of the entire village just taking this moment to just kind of be thankful that things turned out better than expected. This catches all of you a little bit off guard with the intensity of the conversation. Korgoth and his daughter, sensing the mood of the people, drift in the direction of one of the nearby tables to feast and to be together for one last time before she moves on.
Do we need a plan for getting back the eggs? Do we still plan on doing that?
I think that's still the plan. I'm wondering if we want to do any. So Are we staying here until the ceremony to see it through before we go looking for the eggs?
Well, do you think a giant zombie ape is going to come attack us while we try to do this?
Feels possible.
I hate this.
I mean, where'd the dinosaur come from, right? So,
Yeah.
Well,
so
then,
is he strong enough to take this on by himself? We can go on and do something else.
or we could try to split. Maybe, some of the stealthier ones can see if they can get the eggs, while some of the not so stealthy ones can guard. Or are we just cutting our chances?
I think if we're going to need to fight a dragon,
Oh, well.
we stay together.
That's a smart call.
The thing looked freaking huge.
Never mind. Maybe they can keep the eggs.
As with one of the stealthy ones and also the punchy one, like the damage sponge, if you will. Yeah, I'm going to say stay together because I can heal myself once. That's what
I'm gonna pull out the staff and hand it off to Xanth. I've had it in haversack since we got it off of Vasquez, and I want to pass the ring off to Spot. That's the shadow staff. And
Winter's like, staff? Ring? What are these
hey,
things?
you got a bow. You got a bow. Now, I don't want to hear that.
That's right. She wasn't there last session when you guys looted the corpses.
The shadow staff stores up to level 5 spells, and it also has +2 spell attack. And then the Ring of Arcane Resistance, as a bonus action, you can activate whatever arcane resistance, whether it's fire or whatever, for the next turn, that lasts until the next turn. And it had 3 charges, I think it was. 3 charges for that one. In a long rest period.
So
Yeah, it could be 3 times. Yeah, it could be used 3 times per long rest.
Yeah.
Yep,
3 times. 3 times. That's pretty good pulling that from memory without looking at my notes. So that made me happy. Still not happy with this stuff. Back at the Solstice Academy, they used to give us a tale, and they would say this giant wagon is running down a cart path, and there's a bunch of kids playing in one cart path, and there's one kid playing the other cart path, and I've got the option to move the wagon to the cart path with the one kid, or let it keep going and take out the cart path full of all the kids. You know what I decided to do? Blow up the fucking cart.
I don't know if there's a blow up the cart option here.
Just because we don't know doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, we've got 24 hours.
So this begs another question. Are we strategizing right now, or can I go jump into a plate of fruits?
I'm looking
the size of my own body, just cannonball into an open watermelon.
I mean, it's jungle fruit, so it's like a big giant pile of papaya and mangoes, and other rare exotic fruits that would be native to this. Yeah, you guys watch this.
Do you like being eaten? Is that it? I mean, you're gonna dive in that pile of fruit while everybody's taking heat. Look at how they're eating that stuff. Yeah, okay, sure, go ahead, dive in.
Okay, you know what Puck's doing.
I'd love to go commune when I have a chance.
Okay.
But
so Puck is spending the evening eating and kind of partying with the lizard folk within the kind of little impromptu festival that's kicked off. Xaneth looking for a little quiet corner to attempt to do a commune. Winter, what would you like to do with the rest of your evening?
gonna go with Puck because it sounds fun.
Okay, so you and Puck.
There's some good-looking lizard folk over there.
You and Puck decide
Just
to
keep with that theme.
take advantage of the festivities, leaving Earthen and Spot. What would you two like to do for the remainder of your evening?
I'm gonna go try to find the communal kitchen and like just see what I can learn and maybe make ourselves some goodies.
Okay, Earthen.
I'm gonna look at. Do I see any fermented beverages anywhere?
Give me investigation as you begin to look around.
Okay, that's investigation. That's a 21.
You see, 2 or 3 elderly lizard folk are currently chewing up and spitting fruit into a barrel. And the barrel seems to be designed for fermentation. And then they take a large wooden scoop and they mix it up and then pour and separate the pulp from the liquid into a cup. And then they hand it off to you.
I'm gonna look at them. Look at that cup. Look back at them again.
When in Rome, make sure you try to be a Roman.
Yeah, right. Grab a handful of fruit. Right. I'm gonna grab a handful of food, whatever food is there, and then activate my ring and go back up towards the rock nest.
Okay.
I want to go back into that hollow recession of the nest there.
Okay. Winter and Puck enjoying the festivities. Spot, what were you doing again?
I'm heading to the
the kitchen.
yeah.
You head over to, and their communal kitchen is quite literally communal. It's an open air kind of like preparation of stone tables, fire pits, very rudimentary kind of like prehistoric style setup. You know, probably the most advanced kitchen component they have is a great like black cauldron that they kind of pour all the meat into and are making, you know, if they're not roasting meat, they're stewing it. A lot of fresh vegetable and fresh fruit are like the main component. As far as you can tell, no dairy products. There's no sense that they either like or use dairy products. Everything is meat, vegetable, and fruit.
All right.
And no grains. They don't really seem to be into grains of any kind. Just a lot of vegetable roots, which could pass as wild rice if you wanted to. Earthen, activating your ring, sipping at the concoction and nibbling at your food on the way up towards the roost. You can see the village kind of fall out below you, crowded. You can see Puck swimming in a giant vat of papaya. Winter like making fun of her and pulling fruit out of her hair and eating it and enjoying the pleasures of conversation and festivities with the others. And then off near the edge of the transition of lit up portion of the village, the light of the village, you can see Xanath just kind of finding her way into the darkness, a dark kind of corner of space that she's trying to find on her own accord. Xanath, after a few minutes of wandering, not too far away, but enough to find solace, you find a nice quiet space. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I think I'd like to settle down cross-legged and put my shield in front of me and put my helmet in front of me and try to cast Commune as a ritual.
Okay. Oh, Commune is lots of fun.
Mm.
As you do that, you get the feeling that this location, this place, so close to this gate, so close to the idea of what this place means has created a convergence. You feel like you're in a thin veil of existence, that many different streams of consciousness and magical awareness is in this area. This idea of being in such an ancient place that has done ancient rituals to appease or to keep the idea of this place both secret and safe. You feel your eyes begin to close, your mind begins to drift, and as your eyes open, your helmet floats in front of you, and a strange kind of avatar-like glow kind of fills that empty space like it's being worn by some kind of magical effigy. Mm-hmm. This has happened once before when you were concerned, conflicted, uncertain. And the very essence of Helm reached out to you. And the last time it happened is when you were at a particular temple that was dedicated to Helm. His presence felt very much there. And right now, you feel like his presence is very much here right now.
I think as a first question, I'll say, the lizard folk here are going to complete the ritual to seal the gate. Should we expect an attack on that ceremony?
As you utter this thought in your mind, there is a kind of warm feeling of certainty and a coolness of caution.
This ceremony that happens every 100 years, we understand that it consumes the essence of the priestess who completes it. Will that essence be transported somewhere safe?
A cool feeling of concern and warm breeze of uncertainty.
Would I read that to mean essentially no?
You read it more as if divinity is uncertain as to the purpose of their ceremony.
Okay. Is uncertain as to the purpose of this ceremony that's being completed?
Yeah. That is not an affirmation for the atheist in the group.
I'm just saying.
Should the ceremony be completed? Or do you want us to complete the ceremony?
There's a cool wind and an acknowledgement of balance.
Okay. Are the copper keepers responsible for stealing the brood?
There is a strong immediate response to that of heat, to be interpreted as anger and disappointment.
Did the copper keepers orchestrate the death of the high prefix.
How many questions you get? 5?
5. I think that's number 5.
That was you're doing number 5. Say it again.
Were the copper keepers responsible for orchestrating the death of the high prefix?
Once again, the hot wind and the displacement of disappointment and anger, which you take to mean a strong yes. You watch as the helm collapses slowly to the ground. The avatar energy that filled the space dissipates.
Okay. And I'll stay there a couple more minutes and then walk back to the group.
Okay. Earthen, as you arrive to the roost, there is a distinct sound of something eating with abandon. You look inside to see the great creature perched over the remains of a water buffalo as it is slicing it into very large pieces with its beak and throwing it down its gullet without any kind of hesitation. It turns to see you in alarm, but then you can feel the intake of air into its massive bird-like nostrils, and its composure softens a bit. It moves.
I'm going to activate light while it does that, just to be like, it's me.
Right.
It's me.
Yeah. And while it does that, it kind of buzzard waddles past you, that bird waddle that it does, although massive in size. And it leaps off the roost and disappears into the night. You get the feeling that it's hunting tonight. It's feasting and eating to recover its strength. So you're now alone in the brood cavern.
I want to go back into the hole.
Okay.
So the one that was cut out for the surprise event.
Okay. Got your light. Got your light.
I'm still lit up.
Yeah, you go through the hole that was carved into the wall. You shimmy through into the excavated opening on the other side. You can still see the impression of the box on the ground. You've got your light source kind of to be able to look around with.
I'm going to sit facing away from facing the entrance, the hole that I came into. And I've got my food and my drink. I'm going to set the drink down and pull out my locket, pop it open, and just kind of look at the picture of the 3 in the locket. Well, I don't like this. I don't like this. I get it. There has to be some kind of a balance, but there has to be a better way than choosing someone from birth to be the one that's going to be this. I'd never do that for you. I'd never do that for either of you. That was the whole goal. That was the goal to fix everything, to fix this place, to fix all the stuff. And what's it got? I'm in a hole with 4 other people that I care about, but who are blind to the problem, the sacrifice. This can't be the only way to do this.
Give me a charisma check as you're having this conversation.
Sorry, that was a nat 1.
No.
Right? I have a +6 to charisma, but that was a nat 1, so that's a 9 after my bonus.
The cold void of distance kind of settles on your shoulders. The absence of their presence, feeling like you're in the center of a place that's on the furthest edge of reality. And this discussion, this talk of fate, forced sacrifice. You feel a cold energy crawl up your spine. Well, what are you going to do about it?
Oh, no.
You sit here like a mewing cow over something you can't solve. There are obvious lies. The center always holds the truth. Maybe that gate is closed for other reasons. Maybe those are the lies they feed their people. Fate. Fate. The ticking of the murder clock, Earthen. It's only a matter of time before they're found. And then they'll be held until you're found. And the tick-tock of the fates. Your death, their death, all of it for the bumbling wisdom of old thoughts, ancient notions. I can fix these things for you.
Hey.
I can set these things on paths. I can give you everything you need and what you want. All you have to do is go down into that village. Draw a blade across her throat, and everything you need will be yours.
I don't know who you are, but you obviously don't know me very well. I close my locket and tuck it back inside my shirt. Spill over the cup.
The cackle kind of lingers for a bit until you feel yourself back where you were, the edges of your mind, just feeling pressure and notions of unwanted intrusions into your memories and your past. And the last thing you hear as the connection is kind of forcefully severed by you as you regain composure. These memories will keep me warm for a bit and hopeful. You're so much more capable than you know. And the voice just kind of trails off until you can hear the sound of the festival down below. And a very large bird with half of a jungle elephant hanging out of its mouth, staring at you with curiosity.
I'm okay. Thanks.
Pulls its head away from the opening, blood dripping from the carcass of the jungle elephant, and you can hear it gnashing bone and slurping down chunks of meat.
I'm going to stay in the hole.
So with that, Puck and Winter enjoying the festivities. Xanath eventually finding a quiet corner someplace. No watch is required. Spot learning all there is about pit fires and spit roasting and chewing on fruit to make it ferment and become an alcohol. All of you go ahead and click off a long rest.
I can hear that.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Can I ask when I was communing, did I feel like it seemed like it was different than the last time I communed? Did I feel like it might not be Helm?
No, you felt like the veil here is so thin that that's about as close as you've ever felt to Helm.
Okay.
Like, it's only happened one time previously.
Mm-hmm.
That proximity and that closeness. That was when you took your oath and became contrition to the fact that Helm was your guiding star.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always a very euphoric memory for you. This interlude that you just had, once again, begs the question about this spot, this area, this location. And with the gate being resealed, back to the priestess's notion of, you know, things are different for a short period of time. From the point when the orb is retrieved, the essence transferred, and then the orb replaced into the obsidian gate.
Mm-hmm.
All coalescing around this timeline that's been in a frantic pace since all of your guys' arrival. This notion of conspiracy, this notion of what are they looking for down there? They're not truly interested in using their power to take on Sawtooth and the clans, and almost using Varix as a kind of distraction while he unfolded upon his own people a sense of subjugation. They were free to continue their excavation and dig and try to find what they needed.
Mm-hmm.
The brood almost seemed like a last-ditch defense. That if for some reason Varix were to fail by maintaining the control over the brood, it would be difficult for them to react to whatever they're looking for. The more you asked those questions of Helm and felt the warmth and cool understanding of agreement versus the anger and negativity of the Copper Keepers, all of this is connected but barely. Whatever the Copper Keepers are looking for is what their intent truly is. The notion of something they're looking for, and it's an inevitable use of power. Which to a certain degree kind of aligns with what you're beginning to understand about the Truth Keepers.
Mm-hmm.
Faith Keepers?
Or the Faith Keepers, sorry. So everyone tick off a long rest. You wake up fully rested, spells restored. Did we level up?
Not last time, no.
Okay,
Yep.
I didn't think so.
No. Last time we leveled up was the first time we fought Vasquez, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. The rescuing
the circle.
daughter.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, that's why this next milestone is here. Okay, cool. All right. Sometimes my notes lie to me. I just wanted to make sure. And I believe we are on... We are on day 6.
Something like that. Total.
Morning.
Yeah, total day 6. Yeah.
Morning of day 6.
3 days on the
your
boat.
arrival.
3 days here.
Yeah, since your arrival to the island of Gnomeworks. Guys have discovered a lot in a short period of time. Also, as a reminder, welcome to session 30.
Yeah.
If you could believe that. I love how Winter's trying so hard to stay awake. She's so sweet.
I now work Amazon on Sundays, so I can do the morning shift. And I don't even know why I'm like so tired because I've done nothing today. It was the first day. I've done nothing.
I can guarantee you, like I took like my weekend is Thursday and Friday. Those are my typical weekends because I run games Friday night all the way up to Wednesday night. So Thursday, and even though I do at least one game on Fridays, I kind of treat Thursday and Friday as my days off. So Thursday, I decided to just take a day. You know, I did the show with Brian and Bear, and that was all I did on Thursday. So I think I napped all freaking day long. Like all day, I just napped and was a nodder all day long. I get to the shop I get to the studio to do a little work, just a little writing and a little printing. And I get up and I go lie down on the couch in the other room and I fall asleep. I'm like, what the hell? I think that 4 a.m. gig for 6 months kind of took its toll. So I think my body was like, okay, sleep, buddy. You need to get some sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I think losing that extra hour actually did get me more than I thought it did.
It does it to me all the time, too. Like, I'm really glad my studio doesn't have a window because right now it's super bright outside, you know, and it's normally like right about now, I know it's dark outside, but right now it's like super bright. So my mind is like, you know, not going to be able to connect the dots. So everybody click off a long rest, restore your hit points. Be sure to shift any spells that you want to shift if you have that ability. I know Puck is very happy for the long rest. I think you were literally running on empty by the end of the ambush, Puck.
Who are you talking about?
I'm getting close.
Hey, the spiders almost killed me, okay?
Well, no, the spider did almost kill you. That's true.
Yeah, killed me because I had already had two failed death saves from the fight.
Yeah.
And then even a nat 20 against the spiders wasn't enough. Oh.
So it is the morning of day 6. The celebration continues even into the morning as the village begins to prepare for the ceremony. The scouts have returned from the edge of the ashen fields, where the closest point they could get to within the mining pits. And you awake to breakfast, strange brews that kind of smell like teas. No such thing as coffee here. Both Winter and Puck wake up with a bit of a hangover, drinking a little bit too much of the fermented papaya or bathing in it, depending on whose story that you believe. Earthen, you're the only one that kind of wake up in your own kind of isolation up in the Rook. You wake up to the sound of a very, very fat bird sound asleep after an entire night of hunting and recovery.
I'm going to shimmy out of the hole, and as I walk past, I'm going to like put my hand on the rock and be like, you know, you still able to fly after all that? Jeez. And then make my way down to the camp.
Okay. Activating the ring.
Yep.
Coming down into the village alongside the Umgon River. You guys are all back together again. It's early morning. What would you like to do with the remainder of day 6?
Was I able to create any tasty snacks last night?
You couldn't bake,
Ah,
but I would say you managed to create some very unique, almost like a frittata with the meat and the way the fruit is. You were able to find some eggs as a binder. So you made this like really kind of interesting fire frittata in the cauldron. and you currently have it over. Go ahead and give me a performance check, please.
All right, performance. That is a 15.
15. Anyone who eats the inspiring meal offered up by Spot for breakfast will gain an inspiration of D8.
Ooh.
And it'll last for until your next long rest.
That's awesome.
All right, how many servings of that? I'm going to add that to my inventory. It's just something to hand out.
Okay.
How many servings of that should I add?
I would say you procured about a dozen servings.
All right.
One of your better meals. You haven't really had an opportunity to cook for a while, and multiple near-death experiences seems to have enhanced your ability to cook well. Especially when the jungle tried to eat you. It's the morning of day 6. The ceremonial rituals are currently going on in practice as the priestess is doing her preparatory work of the final activity. She is lost in concentration. There are a dozen or so material offerings that she is currently imbuing into the orb itself. There is a kind of chanting and mantra of others around her that seem to kind of voice and do kind of like accolade-like activities. One will bring the offering up to her. She takes the offering, sets it on the orb. It gets absorbed by the orb, and then the orb flares with a little bit more arcane light. You can see Korgoth and his daughter off in quiet conversation. She seems happy. She seems resolved. And she's currently allowing herself to be decorated and kind of festooned with almost like henna-like tattoos. While she's conversing with her father, there's a couple other nearby lizard folk that are like dabbing on spiritual paints onto her hands and arms and her face, kind of as part of the overall ceremony of activity that's going on. One of the hunters that has returned sees the 5 of you over by the fire pits consuming a breakfast and traileth one of the hunters that left with the other scouts. We got as close as we could. There was quite a large procession of gnomes that was seen near the mine. Maybe 3-4 dozen of them, along with caravans and wagons of items being brought to the mining pit as well. We couldn't get close enough to see what was inside. The number of guards were quite numerous, including packhounds as well. However, we did find the trail of the other 3. And we tracked them to the edge of the area that you would call the Mist's Veil. As far as we could tell, their tracks went directly into the mists. We did not dare follow. The horrors that lie in there are not worth repeating.
With those 3 in there, yeah, you better believe it.
Would that be the way that they would travel to get to the Titan's Reach?
No. That path would come up against too many lava fields, too many places that they couldn't cross. The only way into the spires of the Titan's Reach is through our community, through the Obsidian Gate itself. At least that's what the legends state. Since this place is now protected once again by our patron, our guardian, no one has the ability to enter into that space. Although it would seem you and your friends have gained the favor of our guardian and patron. No, if they've crossed over into the Mist's Veil, my guess is they're heading directly towards the Lava Worm Reach, the very base of the volcano itself. For what purpose, I don't know. Crossing those ember fields across those great lakes of lava, they will certainly die in the process. The safest route is the direct access of the ember fields and then over towards the worm lair. The great lava fields are too dangerous.
I wouldn't put it past those guys. They're quite talented. You said the caravan had wagons. Were you able to? Could you make out what was on the wagons?
Not completely. We did notice a lot of equipment that seemed strange. Great spools of copper wire. Great items of mechanicness in nature. Mechanical items, cogs, wheels. Devices that felt very foreign to me. Not sure what they were.
Were there any barrels of material?
There could have been, but they were covered. We couldn't quite see everything. There were at least 20 wagons in the procession. It seemed like a massive movement of material was going on.
Look at the others.
We
Look at
saw,
our people.
and we saw no sign of Sibo as well.
Oh.
Any sign of dwarves?
Of who?
Of any dwarven people?
Only the handful that were mixed in amongst the gnomes in the procession. Other than that, no.
You see weapons on them?
Yes, they were all heavily armed for certain. Except for two. Two of them seemed to be leaders of a sort.
2 gnomes?
Yes, definitely gnomes.
Could you describe to us what they look like?
I can do my best. And as he describes them, one of them sound like the gnome that Winter had an encounter with, the female professor. And the other one sounds like the gnome that is considered to be in charge of the Copper Takers.
Grimmer.
Yep. Definitely sounds like Grimmer.
If they have their head officials down there, they've found something, right?
Or they're close to it.
Mm.
I mean, it's still early in the day. We could maybe try and plan for it, go see if there is anything we can do there to slow them down a little bit, and then come back before... Well, no, I don't know about that.
Oh, and one other thing I forgot. They had somebody in a cage in one of the wagons. He looked very disheveled, human in appearance, and quite bad.
That's why we couldn't find him.
Well,
What do they
I'm
need
going
him?
to go eat. And the hunter, just looking very exhausted, kind of walks away, but sees the frittata that Spot has out and just snags a handful of it and eats it and immediately feels better and kind of like wanders off.
Do you guys think maybe Sawtooth and his clan can protect themselves for this? Because this sounds pretty important.
When I came into his home last night, he conveyed to me that the Copper Keepers were responsible for stealing the brood and also for killing the High Prefect.
Oh no.
This group feels to me extremely, extremely dangerous, and I don't think they want anything more than whatever they're mining, but they're willing to mess with everyone else on the island to get it.
Oof. That sounds right. What do you think we should do today with this information?
I think the Copper Keepers are, they're assholes concerned with material things. What we're dealing with in the mountain is likely a betrayer god. That feels like the priority to me.
Understood.
I don't know if others will disagree.
Well, I went off on my own last night, right? I still have a lot on my mind. But you two have had your encounter. Looking at Xanth and Puck. I think last night was my turn.
It spoke to you?
I felt the cold of it crawl up my spine. And in my isolation, in my anger at the situation, it said I could solve everything if I ran my blade across her neck. There's going to be an attack today, sometime. If it was desperate enough to think it could convince me to be the one to lead the attack. But there's going to be an attack. I don't know when. Can't imagine that part, but it's coming. Sometime. It's coming.
It's desperate if it's reaching out to you now, 24 hours before. But I wonder who else it's reaching out to.
Exactly. I look at Spot and Winter. I mean, 3 of us have been through this now.
I'll say my only concern with letting them be is that Mannheim seems to have spoken to him as well. I don't know if that means that he is in some way connected to carrying out his will, or if this is a whole thing that's separate. I mean, if it tried to manipulate us, well, it's probably tried to do the same with them. And if they're very material, then maybe there was an exchange of some sorts.
I'm inclined to stay for this. These, if they were at their full strength, 100 years ago or whatever, I'd say yeah, we were justified in moving on. But I don't think even with what we were able to do in the last couple of days, I don't see them being able to stand up to that dragon we saw, at least not on their own.
Makes sense.
I think I got that name, by the way. I'm digging through my notes. Is that a certain Miss Brownfoot?
Yes.
The metal feet. The metal.
Yep.
Yeah. Asmodeus or whatever. Asmodean Proudfoot.
Well, this begs another question. Do we want to try and spend the day thinking up of traps to set up in advance or places to kind of keep more protected, or I don't know, setting up things to ensure that everything goes smoothly later on.
We have
I
a
don't know
giant
what kind
magical
of traps
bird
we recently set up that would have an effect on the dragon.
There has to be something we can do to prepare for this. I mean, we can't just sit and wait for it.
We have a giant magical bird.
That's up until yesterday was at death's door. Thanks, Winter.
Can't hear you, Xanath. You might need to check your microphone setting because you put on a new headset.
You guys hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
By the way, I like this setup better than the earbuds. The
Oh, is
earbuds
it
sounds like the earbuds sound like you're in your bathroom. Like it's very
Oh,
echoey and
interesting.
hollow. Yeah, it's weird.
Okay.
Bluetooth sucks. I'm just gonna say it. Bluetooth sucks.
Does anyone have anything that is a spell you can set up in an area in advance?
I am so glad you asked because I just got this.
Ooh.
She puts the toothpick in her mouth and she tilts her head. Look here, see? I'm glad you asked me about that, buddy. See here?
I just got snare and I'm very excited.
Ooh.
You know, not the best, but certainly something. And its duration is 8 hours, so
Oh, awesome.
we have some time, but I'll think of places to put this in advance.
And the ceremony is supposed to take all night. So
Correct.
if we set it up a little before, it would be covered.
Yeah, at
Most
the
of the year.
apex of Saloon's moon, so full moon, they'll start the ceremony. So it'll be right at midnight when they start it. Right now, they're preparing the orb for the actual activity of the ceremony.
I have a really, really awesome spell, but it takes 24 hours to cast. You just can't
What
get
is
it done in time. It's called Hallow, and I can like set up this big zone where no undead can get in. But it takes a
I'll
long
say
time.
we could retcon that and say that after after the initial ambush and you came over and you were learning about the altar, we'll say that you can have it done and ready by midnight.
I didn't have it stocked yesterday, though. Is that still okay, or
Yeah,
should I?
no, that's fine.
All right.
I like the flavor of that spell because you're gonna need it.
Yeah, it's a cool spell. All right, so I'm gonna spend the whole day.
Did you hear that?
Hallow.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
What'd I say?
You're
Did I say
gonna-
something? I'm unawares. I'm unawares of what I said.
Wait, what?
Really cool, y'all.
So that'll take Zenith out of the overall preparatory picture. She is now spending the remainder of day 6 doing the final ceremonies and incantations of this spell designed to protect. Well, read off the spell for us so that we know exactly what it does.
So, all right, you touch a point, infuse an area around it with holy power. The area can have a radius up to 60 feet. The affected area is subject to the following effects. First of all, celestials, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead can't enter the area, nor can such creatures charm, frighten, or possess creatures within it. Any creature charmed, frightened, or possessed by such creature is no longer charmed, frightened, or possessed upon entering the area. I can exclude one or more of those types of creatures from this effect if I want. I can bind an extra effect to the area, and then there are a bunch of different ones. Courage, darkness, daylight, energy protection, which give various different benefits.
Yep.
It's a cool
It's
spell.
a cool ass spell. I've had other players use it.
Yeah.
It's a very good effect. I would say your challenge is the point that you want to establish. And there's really only 3 points of interest that make sense. There's the altar, where the completed orb will be used to absorb the essence of the daughter. There's the procession that will take the orb up to the obsidian gate. And then there's the obsidian gate where the orb is placed into the gate.
Mm-hmm.
All three of them could be potential points of interest that could come under threat.
I think, as I'm understanding the ceremony. Oh, so if someone wants to weigh in, awesome.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was asked to kill her. Once she's merged her essence, I think the rest of it, yeah, we need to keep her alive until we don't.
Yeah. As I understand the ceremony, it sounds like the longest period of time is spent at the altar. So I'll
Correct.
set it up. It's got a 60-foot radius. I'll put it like within 20 feet of the edge, and then try and do as much as I can the other direction towards the walking.
Capture as much coverage as you can around the altar.
Yeah.
I would say that at some point, Korgoth senses what you're doing and kind of gives his nod of affirmation. He begins to see that a couple things. Those few remaining warriors within his clan are preparing themselves. They're doing the ritualistic body paint. The vibe and the tension of a certain attack, just not knowing where it's coming from, is the problem. Even though the main attack was thwarted, the air of desperation is palpable. Everyone feels it. This being close, so that once this ceremony is complete, they can then focus on trying to retrieve the brood. Also, trickling in from the edges of the river and the jungle canopy of the river and swamplands nearby, from time to time, in pairs or in threes, surviving members of the lizard folk that were part of the flotilla. And as they're met by Korgoth and the others, he seems to do some kind of ritual ceremony with them, like he's detecting or prodding or probing their thoughts. And after about 36 of these lizard folk warriors are recovered from the growth of the jungles, he kind of relates to all of you without disturbing Xanath, as she has to concentrate on the setup of the protection, that they seem to be under some form of effect, almost like a domination of will. And he's convinced that somehow Varix was using something to control them to a certain degree. Whether it was pact magic or a relic or an item, he's not entirely sure. And he's not entirely trusting right away, but by detecting thoughts, their surface thoughts as they come in, he kind of describes confusion, loss, concern, absence of memory. I would say anyone who's skilled in Arcana can make an Arcana check to try to figure out maybe what spell he was using.
Define skilled.
You're an innate spellcaster.
Yeah. So roll an Arcana check.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna burn a lucky point on that one.
Remember,
Ready.
hey, Earthen, remember, I got my frittata. You can always add +8 without burning a lucky point.
Or roll a d8.
Yeah.
That one needed a lucky, but it was a 4, so it was.
So what'd you get?
Hang on. That's. I'm gonna go and burn up my frittata as well. So that gives me 15 plus Arcana is 3 plus 2, dirty 20.
Okay. It feels like he was using a dominate will effect, but to have dominated so many, it feels like maybe something has yet to be recovered that he was using. Either was left on his barge, left on the harness of his mount. There was an item that he must have been using to exercise this dominant will on the couple hundred people that he had in his force. You don't believe it was the staff. I mean, you took everything off him that you could think of. So there's something that he was using that you guys currently do not have possession of.
Yep. So I'm gonna try and describe it to Korgoth that there's a thing out there that's still that's got them ensnared still. We can't trust these.
And you watch as he points at one of his hunters. They come over and stand in front of him. And speaks to them in his tongue. I will send out my best hunter. If we missed it on the debris of the flotilla, or if he could track down the mount of Vasarisk, we will find it.
Anybody want to go with him? I mean, I want to go with him. Anybody else want to go?
The hunter kind of laughs and goes, "No, thank you." And just kind of like disappears without even a whisper.
Rude.
Well, as hunters tend to operate very individualistic, so
I guess he did.
Did you say his name was? Did you say his name was Batman?
Along with great power comes great responsibility. As he whispers and disappears into the undergrowth of the jungle.
Wrong animal.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. My hunters tend to do better on their own.
Korgoth, if you have a moment, I would like to speak with you.
Sure. What shall we speak of?
Physics in high school, physics in college, just by accident. I just was not
goodness. Sorry, Spot. I had to mute you. I could pick up your background audio.
If this volcano,
yes,
if this volcano was to erupt, I don't know. I worry that an eruption of this volcano may in some way factor into the plans of the copper makers.
What makes you think that? Such a task would require a magical effort beyond even them, I think. And to do such a thing would be both destructive and self-destructive at the same time.
Well, Vasarisk's barges were full of gunpowder. Gunpowder is not magic, but it explodes. And it explodes mightily.
Sibo has explained the nature of gunpowder to me. Is it not possible they intended to use that on the gate?
Do you really think gunpowder would open a magically sealed gate?
No, but I think it would destroy the cliff face that it's built in, and possibly open up something beyond it. Once again, I don't really feel like the gate is really their target. I think there is something about this base, the magic that is incorporated in this place, the idea of this place, its history, its lineage, the idea of ceremony and why we do what we do. The core of this is the beginning of our promise, a promise that was made to a god. There is something in this place that they want, that they seek.
How sure are you that the pact you made was with Melora? And how sure are you that Melora wants to keep this place in, or that this is the balance that she speaks of?
The world is not burning. Death is not rampant. Families age, live, and generations of people across this world have experienced life. I believe what's on the other side of this gate would snuff that out in an instant. My faith is strong enough to tell me that much.
But it sounds like you described something that is out of balance. If
The
things
prison
are so good,
is
if
balance.
things are so great, if things are so great, it certainly sounds like the 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 good side, the light side, uh, maintains all the power currently. I don't know. To me,
You
that
see
sounds
the
like
world in
a
black and
disbalance.
white, Earthen. Those of us who hold our faith with our deities, we see the world in shades of gray of expectation. We know that our fate and our pact is to doom us to the eternal suffering of this ceremony, but we do experience life in between this great sacrifice. We have been here for almost 1,000 years, and we've done well up until recently.
Why does it have to be her? Why can't it be you that makes the sacrifice? You've lived your life. You've lived your time. You've experienced 500 years. That's what? 10 times the life of any other lizard folk. You've experienced it all. You could make that decision. You could be that one to be the sacrifice and be this replacement. Instead, you place it on essentially a child. A
Well,
child that
a child
you
to
knew
some.
before.
If somebody takes a walk down a long road, that is merely a journey down a long road. It doesn't mean I've gained the experience or knowledge to tell me that I'm either right or wrong, to question the fates of gods. Faith is a blind trust, Earthen. Faith in something greater than yourself fills the void for those of us that understand our purpose. My daughter has a purpose. She's accepted this purpose. This midnight ceremony will see to it that her purpose is fulfilled. If at that given moment fate reveals to me that I am to be the one, I would gladly accept that fated opportunity. But that is not the nature of gods, Earthen. They are not things to quibble or discuss or understand or moderate or begin to understand their own purpose.
Then tell me of the story of the champion of the matron of ravens.
Which one? There have been so many.
Vaxeldan. He chose his position. He chose his place.
Did he?
It wasn't thrust upon him. The decision was thrust upon him, but he was not targeted.
I would disagree. According to the legend, an ignorant choice was made. A sister moved towards an object of which she had no knowledge of, set her on a fated path. She did not make that choice to die. She barely understood the reason why she was doing what she was doing, and she perished. The choice that the champion made was to exchange the place with his sister. The fates had already casted their die. She had already picked her champion. There was no way for him to ever leave that temple with the understanding that his fate would ever be any different than what it was about to become. What you call choice, I call the inevitability of fate. Vernacular, Earthen, is no reason to give up your faith. And Korgok just kind of smiles, and he hands you an object. And it's a stone object. It looks like a spiritual focus of some sort. It is a very kind of like cleverly carved jade statue of their understanding of what the Wild Mother would look like, what Melora means to them. And the jade statue is in the shape of a crescent moon with a kind of like an animal kind of like pantheon look about it. This great beast with a moon crested above it and a series of antlers, and the intricacies of the jade kind of like focus. And he hands it to you and he goes, when your path is at its darkest, Earthen, look at something other than your own troubled self. Put your faith in your friends. Put your faith in your abilities. And understand that not everything can be predetermined. The journey, Earthen. It's the journey, this journey you've set yourself on. You've met so many people. Do you really think that wasn't fated for you? Here you're surrounded by the very fulcrum of both religion and friendship. You've saved my people. You've freed the spirit of the creature that guards our future generations. And you've enabled my people to reseal the gate like they've done for the past millennia. Have a little faith, Earthen. Have a little faith. And Korgoth kind of like backs up and smiles at you and goes back to the attendance of his daughter. So the remainder of the day is the activity of the festival itself. The preparations. So we know Xanath is currently preparing the spell effect. This will take place at midnight. This is when the main ceremony is believed to take place. So I know what Xanath is preparing. Earthen, what would you like to prepare for this event?
I want to go back up to the rock nest and try and attend
I
the rock.
kind of feel like Puck might have had that in mind as well after she sets her traps. Puck, is there any overlap between you and Earthen on the idea of maybe incorporating the rock into this possibility?
Yeah, but I guess first I would probably look around to see for any natural traps I can set up.
Okay. So Puck, you're currently setting up area effect traps around where the ceremony is going to take place. Earthen, you get up to the nest. What do you want to do up there?
Just gonna talk to the bird.
Okay. And what would you like to try to convince it to do?
Not even to convince it to. Well, just the same kind of kick I've been on. I've pocketed the jade carving now, and I was gonna like approach the rock, put my hand on its beak, and just gonna say like, there has to be another way around this.
And Spot and Winter, what do you two want to try to prepare to do to get ready for the ceremony at midnight?
I'm gonna walk around and just kind of see if. What's that?
No, Winter was talking to somebody.
Oh. Okay, sorry, bad timing. Anyway, I'll walk around and see if anybody looks like they might be able to put my skills to use. Just if anything needs to be hung up or getting things in inaccessible places. And I was planning on just ruining the serious mood that Earthen was just pick out a random lizard folk. Hey! I got a quick question for you, buddy.
What do you want? I'm busy.
Hey, well, this is an awkward question, but I heard your leader. He called the guy. Well, he called that asshole a couple hours ago, and I was just curious because I would have bet anything you're rocking a cloaca. Like, do you have a cultural understanding of what that means? Like,
The lizard folk kind of like stares at you and goes, "I wonder what tabaxi tastes like," and just kind of wanders off.
Earthen's in the middle of this like intense
agony. Winter, anything you'd like to prepare for the ceremony at this point?
Is there any way I can go speak to my bow about more about the ceremony?
Okay, so you're going to commune with your bow and try to see if there's a connection with this activity, especially considering the origin and source of the bow. That's where we're going to finish. As all of you see the ceremony beginning to unfurl, the tribal clan coming together, as morning and mid-morning will eventually become midnight. And when we come back next week, we will be in the midst of the ceremony and see what gets unleashed. I can't wait to build this. Oh, never mind. I can't say that. I don't want to give away too much. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with us. We'll be back here next Sunday. Everybody good with next Sunday? Because the following Sunday, which is the 26th, we will be taking off as me and my partner in crime are going to fair. So you guys go ahead and linger. Everybody else, be kind, be safe, and don't forget to play a game. And we'll see you next Sunday and see what happens at the ceremony. Good night, everybody.